Let's start with the second topic, human impact on water resources. The first lecture is about the impact of human beings on water quantity and quality. The forms and ways of human impact on water are diverse. Depending on the choice of different criteria, human impact is permanent and temporary, direct and indirect, complex and sectoral, in terms of quantity or quality of water. Very often, one water source has many users with different requirements for quantity and quality of water, time for its use, and etc. This creates serious difficulties for water companies to find optimal solutions. Agriculture, industry, and the household sector have a direct impact on water. In agriculture, the major part is used for irrigation, which is why it is necessary to build irrigation facilities such as irrigation canals, irrigation dams, pumping stations, and more. A considerable part of the water in the agricultural business is also used in animal husbandry. All this causes a redistribution of used water resources in time and space, which also leads to significant changes in the river regime, groundwater status, and evaporation. In industry, water performs various functions as part of the finished product, as an environment for performing various physical, chemical, and biological processes, for cooling and others. The seized water is in large quantities. Some of it cannot be returned to the water source. Often, the treated water is of poor quality. The household sector is also a significant consumer. It is characterized by a large irregularity of water consumption in round-the-clock seasonal and annual aspects. Household sector require the construction of dams for drinking water supply, complex water intake and drainage systems. The most significant impact have the large urbanized territories, which aggregate both the needs of the population and the needs of industrial enterprises and service companies. Indirect impact on water do not lead to a direct impact on water quantity and quality, but impacts the conditions and factors for the formation, territorial and temporal distribution of natural water. Indirect impact is deforestation, which leads to redistribution of fallen precipitation and formation of surface and underground runoff. Because of deforestation, the erosion of the slopes is increasing, which contributes to the increase of the sediment in the rivers and the obstruction of the dams. Indirect impact is soil plowing, which also plays an important role in the formation and regime of the water. Soil plowing causes an increase in the evaporation from the Earth's surface and changing the conditions for the formation and circulation of groundwater. The urbanized territories also have indirect impact. They change the way the surface runoff, rainwater, and snowmelt are formed and distributed. In addition, significant volumes of urban wastewater and rainwater are formed, which have a big impact on water quality. There are two types of water use. Water demand is when quantity and quality of water has changed. Users who change water quality and quantity are industry, agriculture, and communal service. Water use is when quality and quantity of water stay almost the same. These are cases when water is used for transport, electricity production, and fish breeding. Hydropower, water transport, and fisheries do not capture water from the water source, but use the resource on site and at the moment. The least impact on the river regime have the small hydropower plants that use minimum share of river water. In fact, their impact is rather on the biota inhabiting the water and need to provide free and easily accessible fish transitions. Greater impact have hydroelectric power plants built on a dam, which requires reservoirs, pressure pipelines, and in many cases, derivation channels for the transfer of water from other rivers. Water transport impacts mostly on the quality of the water bodies, and with some hydrotechnical activities for deepening and adjusting the riverbed. The anthropogenic impact on water involves different in nature, type, requirements, and regime water users. In water demand, certain volumes of water are seized from the water body, which can be river, lake, and underground aquifer, and that water is discharged to another place at another time and to another quantity, often with poor quality. Depending on the method of use in the various economic and domestic activities, the proportion of return water varies widely. Agriculture is a major water user in the modern world economy. It accounts for about 70% of all seized water. The majority is used for irrigation. The share of animal husbandry is much smaller, where except for watering, water is used for food preparation and farm cleaning. Second water user is the industry, where water plays a different role in technological and production processes. Domestic use accounts for the smallest share, about 10%. The highest share of agribusiness in water consumption is found in a number of Asian countries such as India, China, Indonesia, Vietnam, and others. The main reason for this is the extremely large volumes of water used for rice cultivation and some other crops. The share of water consumed in the industry in countries such as Russia, Canada, France is very high due to the strong development of this sector there and due to the climate. Here you see a global picture of water consumption in the world. In addition to the already shown sectoral consumption ratios, you can also see the very low relative share of domestic water consumption in the dry and poor regions of the world, like Africa, South America, and Central Asia. The diagram shows distribution of industrial water use. The leading position is occupied by the production of electricity and heat in the thermal power plants. Next, the pulp and paper industry, the steel and the chemical industry. The share of food production is also serious. The need for water in industry is particularly high in urban areas with a large population where most businesses are located. The amount of water used by industry varies widely across countries. In Europe, the use of industrial water has decreased over the last 20 years. A 10% decrease in Western countries, 40% in Southern, and 82% in Eastern countries. In Turkey, the reduction reaches 30%. The decrease is due to the overall decline in heavy industry with high water consumption, but also due to an increase in efficient water use. Cooling in energy production accounts for 45% of all produced water in Europe. In Poland, France, and Germany, more than half of the water produced goes to energy production, mostly cooling. There are various schemes and systems for water supply in the industry. Some technological processes require the use of the same water in different processes, and in these cases, a consistent water supply is appropriate. When the dominant part of the water is used without substantially altering its quality and can be reused, the scheme for recycled water supply is most appropriate. Here you see a recycled water supply of a car wash, where significant amounts of water are used. The water used to wash the car after purification is used for domestic purposes like toilets and irrigation. Irrigation is of a great importance in modern agriculture. Thanks to its application, the area of cultivated crops is expanded, the yields are increased, and the geography of their cultivation is changing. Primitive soil and irrigation methods are still being used in many areas. The surface irrigation shown on the slide is appropriate for growing moisture-loving crops, but it causes big losses of water in dry regions. Irrigation is one way to increase crop yields in agriculture. In modern irrigation, drip and underground irrigation are most effective. The concept of drip irrigation is presented in the video. In this table are shown the features of the three main types of irrigation. The conditions in which the application of one or the other irrigation system is effective are outlined. The negative effects of their application on soils are shown. A comparison is made between the different types of irrigation and the environmental changes that result from their application. Obviously, drip irrigation is most effective in terms of loss of water and in terms of the impact on the environment. The population uses significant amounts of water for domestic use. A person needs about 140 liters per day. The map shows the huge territorial differences in consumption in different countries. Highly developed countries use significantly higher quantities of water for the household. However, we must also bear in mind the impact of climate conditions and the availability of sufficient water resources. One way to reduce water is to use water-saving appliances like washing machines, dishwashers, and sanitary appliances. Of great importance for rational use of water is the hygiene and aquatic culture of people. Other ways of reducing household drinking water is the use of recycled water, for example, the use of water from washing machine in toilets. Household water consumption has specific requirements for the quantity and quality of water. There is a big irregularity in water consumption daily, seasonally and annually. This requires construction of complex systems for water supply and water treatment. One of the big problems are losses in the water supply network, which can reach up to 50–60%. Here are some ways for reducing the cost of drinking water. In addition to technological and economic solutions, education and culture for the use of domestic water play an important role. Here you will find additional information about the impact of human beings on water quantity and quality.